So Guy Pearce's acting, as I said in the last video, he just looked like he was, his acting was all in the face. It didn't feel genuine. So, oh, I might have said in the last video that I did not see anything with, Guy Pearce, acting-wise, besides this movie. I was wrong. I did not know that he played, William Cecil in, the 2018, Mary, Queen of Scots, which means that Guy Pearce and Joe Alwyn were in 2 movies together, which I find amazing. So, as I watched this movie, I found that they gave Scrooge a lot of exposition lines, and it, again, show, don't tell, especially in film, and it just had a whole telling and not really showing vibe to it, especially with Scrooge's lines. Okay. So, Marley leaves, and the Ghost of Christmas Past says that he likes a challenge right before he goes up to get Scrooge. So, when we first see the Ghost of Christmas Past, we see him as Scrooge's father, who we've never seen before this. We never saw a picture of him. No flashback at all. So when he comes up as this father, as his father, we don't know who he's supposed to be at first, and but we see Scrooge's reaction when he sees him, and he's scared and he's hiding. But I kind of wish that they had hinted what his father looked like, so it wouldn't have been so bizarre. But so the Ghost of Christmas Past, played again by Andy Serkis, who is played with the father, and anyone that the ghost turns into is Andy Serkis as these people, as these characters. So I'm not sure who plays the father. I'm not sure who the actor is who plays the father, but it's Andy Serkis as that actor as his father. And the ghost makes Scrooge relive a memory where when he and his sister, not Fan, Lottie, when Scrooge and his sister Lottie were children, Lottie gave Scrooge a pet rat as a Christmas gift. And Scrooge's father viewed gifts as a debt, which no one really called it debt. But it is a debt in kind, it was a voluntary debt, and because of that viewpoint, the father kills the rat in front of Scrooge, and does it again when the ghost of his father haunts Scrooge again. So after that altercation, again deepening a character that doesn't need to be deepened, the Ghost of Christmas Past changes back to himself as Andy Serkis, and this is when the whole cursing comes in, and it's very bizarre. And so the Ghost of Christmas Past transports him back to the past, to his boarding school, where then the ghost again turns into Ali Baba, which I said the actor is a great actor for BIPOC representation. So Ali Baba. And this scene is also when they reference the Campbells again. Again, Scrooge doesn't believe that the Campbells can walk into the snow. and camels can walk into the snow, walk through snow. In this, so Alibaba shows Scrooge his past, where as an agreement with his father, the headmaster keeps Scrooge away from the family and away from home. And in return, the father gives him money to keep the school running. At least that's how I interpret it, because again, they don't really explain much. It's all very vague. And the headmaster also allegedly, again, this is what I interpret the script, because again, they don't show anything, that the headmaster abuses Scrooge. And yes, I do mean that type of abuse. Again, it may not seem like it is, but like, watch the adult Scrooge's reaction to the headmaster then. I don't think any other adaptation before this would have had Scrooge react to the headmaster so viciously. Again, that's my interpretation. That's what I got from the script about what they say, about the actors and the characters say about this character. That's just what I get. So Fan, again, we named Lottie for no reason, takes Scrooge home. The headmaster starts to stop him from leaving. Lottie tells Scrooge to get into the carriage. Then, in a most bad yet does not make any sense, it is the most nonsensical bad moment for this character. She stops Scrooge from being held hostage by taking out a gun and threatening the headmaster that if he follows them, she would kill him. And and as much as this scene is amazing, it deepens her character, not really Scrooge's. But the scene, there's no point to this. There's no point to Fan Lottie having a gun. There's no point for Scrooge being abused. The original abandonment was enough for him to swear off Christmas, to swear off his family, to swear off love, and that was enough. You didn't need any, and it doesn't add any good substance to it either. The only substance that I think it gives to it would be a scene that I will later rant about, and I will probably rant long about it. Okay. So, after that's done, Scrooge realizes that he didn't really treat Lottie well when she was alive. He didn't really give any affection for her like he did before he left. Lottie actually tells her son, Fred, Scrooge's nephew, to give Scrooge time because he has a heart. He has a hardened heart, which, yeah, sure. Before I continue on, back with the Lottie and the gun thing. I can never pronounce the name. Akov's gun. Akov's gun. Guys, please, if you're going to have a gun or anything with a weapon, use it in the story. She never uses it ever. So the Ghost of Christmas Past changes into a miner, a miner, like they go under into mines, and again, this is another actor portraying Andy Serkis, portraying the Ghost of Christmas Past, and he shows him the mine that Scrooge and Marley owned, which they had taken all of the expenses for the timbers and held the roof together because unnecessary expense. And the roof ends up collapsing and killing all of the miners in the construction site, including children and women, not just the men. And I think this is probably one of my favorite scenes, along with another one that's coming up, even though I still have a few gripes about that too. It really shows, this is when I talk about Scrooge's death that doesn't need it. This is probably one of the few that I think that did need it, and I like it for that. I like these scenes for the deepening of the reason, or the reasoning, or the consequence of his miserliness. I like seeing the consequences of his actions, that bad and never really good, reflect on the people that he inflicts indirect pain on. Because it makes me feel like Scrooge is more than just, oh, a miser who doesn't care. He's more so, he doesn't care, and also he's kind of a scoundrel. And I kind of like that. And also deepens, I'm going to say this word a lot, the worldview of both Scrooge and Marley, not just Scrooge, because it was both Scrooge and Marley who agreed to take away those timbers. It just explained the consequences of them being on Earth a lot more, and I kind of liked it. So then after Scrooge witnesses the mine shaft not working and not pulling them up and trapping the people in there, the ghost of the past then turns into an upper crustman, aristocratic man, and he takes Scrooge into a factory, not the factory that burned down, but another one. It's more of a mill, and he takes them there, where it's actually younger Scrooge and younger Marley. They're like in their 30s, I think. And they buy and they buy the mill, only to demolish it and not tell any of the workers that they're out of work. And that actually sounds a little bit more realistic than probably the mine. And it's just a rotten thing to do, and so. Yeah, this is the scene where I said, one of the many scenes that I said I had a gripe with a little bit ago. It's mainly because of the scene production. It looks too modern to be in the 18th century. It looks more so, because the story is in 1880 or 18, in the late 1800s. But the scene production for the scene, it looks like they had bought, or they had rented out a modern factory, but made it so that but it looks like if you followed them, as the camera does, you follow them through the what's it called, the industrial part. The walls, and especially the lighting, looks too modern. It looks like it's in like the 70s and the 80s, kind of like cubicle lighting, and I don't think that was around in the 1800s. I'm not 100% sure. I'm more of a Tudor history nerd, not really so Victorian, but I do know a little bit. But I don't remember reading upon that. So the time periods kind of clash with the scene production there. So yeah, Scrooge and Marley buy a mill. They don't tell the workers. And this was just, I think, before Christmas that they bought the mill and didn't tell the workers that they are out of a job. And it's so bad. Oh, and the scene is also when I mentioned Marley's Derby horse. He had bought the Derby expenses from the man's father who died, the mill owner's father who died, and so he bought that from the son when they bought the mill. Again, it didn't. I'd argue that it doesn't really deepen his character much because all he did was buy something from a dead man, but it was also but his actions with Scrooge, with buying that mill and not telling anyone, that deepens his character. So after that scene, the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge as himself. No, I'm wrong. No. I have in my notes the Ghost of Christmas Past. So my brain was to say Gop. The Ghost of Christmas Past turns into a circus ringmaster. Again, for whatever reason, it takes Scrooge into the circus tent where they have the old camera that showed the old projector that shows Scrooge what his life would have been like if he had married and had kids with. They always change his love's name in almost every adaptation, so I'm not very gripped about that. In this adaptation, her name is Charlotte. And again, it's another showing versus telling, but showing, but in this one, it's like not enough showing was done for my taste in this scene but again, this is actually the scene where I referenced before that Scrooge has a lot of first person, not really first person, but second person soliloquies, but it is an exposition soliloquy, and it just I just think that they could have showed it. They could have showed it instead of just have him do a soliloquy. Yeah. So anyway, so and after that scene, the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge to Mary Cratchit's house. The Cratchit's house. This is 7 years ago. I say 7 years ago in the previous video. 7 years ago, when Mary Cratchit was giving birth to Tim, they actually show the birth, which I thought was unnecessary but cool. He shows Scrooge the scene, the moment where Mary Cratchit comes to Scrooge for help with the money for Tim's operation, or he would die. Scrooge plays a psychological game with Mary. All she needs is 30 pounds, I think. All she needs is 30 pounds. And Scrooge plays a psychological game, which is what would you give up in order for this money? And he makes it clear that it's not the outcome. It's not the outcome of it's not the outcome of what he's proposing. It's the outcome of what she would give up. He doesn't care about the trying to say it so I'm trying to say it in a way that won't make me banned from YouTube. He doesn't care about the intercourse. Yeah. It's more so that he's more interested in the psychological outcome of what she would do for this money. So this game, as I said, renders her almost naked in front of him the next day on Christmas. And here's a funny thing that I found. When I watched this originally for the very first time on FX, it was premiering on FX, they showed the scene, and she really was like 100% like butt naked in front of him. But when I saw it on Hulu last week, all she did was take off half of it and he said stop. So I really wonder, like, did they get backlash from that? Was that an edit in, or did they accidentally show the wrong? Did they accidentally show the wrong version when premiering it? I don't know, but it's still the fact that they made Scrooge as an article in, I forgot which article said it, but it said SVU-esque, Special Victims Unit suspect. And it really is. And so he tells her to come to him on Christmas Day, come to his house. Take off her clothes, and he would give her the money. He makes her say what she thinks he wants her to do. And it is the most, I don't know what was going through those writers' heads. I don't know what they were thinking, and it so after Mary does that, Scrooge then blackmails her and says, I won't tell Bob about this if you prevent him from ever quitting. Or the truth might just come out. Which, this Scrooge is so... This makes Scrooge irredeemable in my opinion. So, the game is over. He tells her to stop. Like, stop undressing. It's fine. Get the money. She walks away to the door, and but before she leaves, she says to Scrooge that she prays that a spirit will shove him by the throat and show him a mirror of his wicked ways, and that she has the power to do such things. I'll get to that little bit at the end, because it comes back, believe it or not. So from that moment forward, from those 7 years, from when this happens, Tim is like a baby still. When we first saw Tim, he was like 7, 8. So this has been 7 years of guilt that she has been going through, of psychological damage, because Scrooge wanted to play a psychological experiment on her. It makes Scrooge irredeemable, 1,000% irredeemable in my opinion. So the Ghost of Christmas Present and Past, the Ghost of Christmas Past ends up getting frustrated with Scrooge because he wasn't moved by any of that really, like a little bit. He was a little bit, but not enough to like for him to just change by that one ghost alone. He was very, very frustrated. So the next ghost, the Ghost of Christmas Future comes up. My brain just wants to like, I'm done with this review. The Ghost of Christmas Present comes up, and that is his sister Lottie. I find this interesting because she is shown to be the embodiment of unconditional love, which is a different take for the Ghost of Christmas Present, who is the embodiment of love, sacrifice, giving, hope, and mercy. So I just found that interesting. And I kind of like the fact that they use someone that Scrooge knows to get him to like act better. I just found that interesting. So Lottie takes Scrooge to Bob and Mary's house in the present, and Mary is still overwrought with guilt. That she goes to tell Bob about it, about what happened. But according to according to Lottie, people can sense the spirits when they are in high emotion. And Mary is like on the verge of crying. She doesn't end up crying. She's like on the verge of a mental breakdown, essentially. But Mary kind of sees Scrooge, and that freaks her out, and it just makes her anxiety even worse, and she ends up lying to Bob again, telling him that she stole jewelry. And I give props to Joel Owen, because if I was Bob, I wouldn't have believed that for a minute. But let me see. So it's interesting that in this scene, that after this scene, Scrooge does start to feel bad, like really, really bad about what he did to Mary. Like he even says like, I really want to go over there and tell her like I shouldn't have done that. I please don't feel bad. Like, I won't tell Bob anything. Then Bob later tells the family that he's decided to quit Scrooge and Marley's, and that he will do it the next day for a better position at another place of work. Mary, still in the person, still thinks of the blackmail, and she still feels Ebenezer's presence from before, and she gets so overworked that she starts to scream, get out of my house, get out of my house. This scene is weird because it makes her look crazy, because no one else in the room can see Scrooge, can feel his presence. No one else can but her. Again, probably referencing that she has the power to summon the spirits. Weird. Again, weird. So yeah, that scene makes her look like she's crazy, and I have a bad feeling of that. And so, yeah. So Lottie takes Scrooge to a church where they pray and they sing for the people who died in the collapse mine. And one of those people in the crowd, in the congregation of people, is the boy that peed on Marley's grave because he was the son and the brother of two of the people that worked in the mine and who died in the mine. I just found that interesting. It's like he pays his respect to Marley by saying, "Yup, I hate you." So the church and the church and the congregation of people give Scrooge emotion that starts to turn his character around. I don't believe that for a minute, but it, according to the story, it does. Pierce's face looks broken, but his emotions are still stagnant in that miserliness. And I don't know if that was the effect that he was going for Scrooge, but it just didn't. It just made any emotion that made him, that would have made him feel like a good person, or like feel like a hurt person, like a terrible person. I didn't believe that for a minute. And it just feels forced. So Scrooge tells Lottie that he feels terrible, that he doesn't know how to change, but he feels bad anyway, and he ends up telling Lottie that he apologizes to her about the way he treated her when they were growing up, because he didn't know what he did for him back when they were little at the school, and he felt guilty of not loving her more, of not showing her unconditional love more. And Lottie forgives him. Then that's it. I'm going to stop here, guys, because I feel like these videos are getting long. So, part 3 or 4 is next. Enjoy, guys. Have a great rest of the day. And, yeah.